this is Vicki Robinson with Vicki Robinson Designs, and today I want to share with you one of my favorite quick ways to turn what might be an otherwise unusable photograph or an interesting photograph into one with a little bit more pep, so that it might add a little bit more spark to your pages as you do your journaling. This photograph, a little backstory here, this photograph is of my father-in-law. It was taken probably in 2010, and at the time we were moving him and my mother-in-law, to an independent living home from their family home where they had lived for darn near close to 40 years. As you can imagine, it was a very emotional time, very stressful, and my mother-in-law was having a particularly hard time as the packers were packing up some of her wedding presents and some of her dishes. And my father-in-law sort of kept poking his head in the room, telling her to sort of calm down, and she would have none of it. She was just emotional. Well, a couple minutes later, my father-in-law peeks his head around the corner, and he's got this red clown nose on his face. I'm not even sure it's clown nose. I don't know, where a red rubber ball or something. I don't know, but needless to say, everybody just burst out laughing. It was just sort of a silly thing to do. And he accomplished his purpose of lightening the moment. So I luckily had my camera close at hand, and I was able to grab this picture. But as you can see, I didn't have very much time to focus it. And the eyes, you can see here that the eyes are, it's really a pretty blurry photo. But it means a lot to me because it really speaks to those moments as we were trying to transition them into another stage in their life. So I really wanted to use it. And what I decided to do was really just focus on this red ball on his nose here. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this photograph into a black and white photograph. I'm here in the full version of Photoshop CC. I'm going to show you first photograph in CC, and then I'll switch over to Elements and show you the same trick in Elements. But before I can do anything with this layer, it's a background layer, so I need to unlock it. In the newer versions of Photoshop, you just click on the lock to do that. Older versions, you have to double click on it. You'll get a little box to say okay. So as I said, we're going to turn this into black and white. And to do that, I'm going to do that in a non-destructive way, meaning I'm going to do it using one of the adjustment layers, the black and white adjustment layer here. And I'm doing this for two reasons. One, because I can control the quality of the black and white. I can decide, take out, if I move these sliders here, I can control better the quality of the black and white, the contrast, and which of the colors it really removes. This is okay for this purpose. And the other reason that I'm using this adjustment layer is it adds a mask to the adjustment. So, and here's my little trick, and it's really simple. You're gonna love it though. I'm gonna go to my brush tool, and I'm just gonna choose a hard round brush. This one's humongous, but I'm just going to make it way smaller. Let's make it, I'm gonna use my left bracket key, make it way smaller here. And I'm going to make sure that my opacity is at 100%, my flow is at 100%, my smoothing is set to 0. I'm going to make sure I'm selected on my mask. Now my mask is white. That means if I want to reveal anything below, I need to be painting on my mask in black. So I'm going to make sure my color chips are with the black on the foreground, and you just can switch them back and forth by using the X key on your keyboard. And then what I'm going to do, let me just zoom in here, I'm just going to paint over this red nose with my brush. Now, I'm not going to do a really great job of this since I'm just demonstrating the technique for you. If you make a mistake or go too far, get something you didn't want to, just switch your color picker to white. Make my brush a little bit lower, smaller, using the left bracket key. Now, obviously, you would take more time doing this, but I just wanted you to get the idea here. And as I said, this is non-destructive. I've got this mask here, so if I wanted to change the black and the white a little bit, I still have the opportunity to do that. And I can lower the opacity. And if I decide I don't like it, I can just get rid of the mask completely. So that's my quick and really, really simple way for taking an otherwise uninteresting photo and adding some pop to it. Now let's do this similar technique over here in Photoshop Elements. This is Photoshop Elements 2018. This photograph is one I took on a ferry from Seattle to, I think it was Bainbridge Island. And it was in the middle of the week, in the middle of the day, and the ferry was pretty much empty. There was no one else on it except for this young couple and their young son. And he was just beside himself with excitement for being on this ferry. It's obviously the first time he'd ever been on one, and he couldn't stop himself from running around and picking up hatch covers and looking in windows and playing with big old chains that the anchor was attached to. I asked his mom if it would be okay if I took some photographs of him if I didn't capture his face, and she was more than happy to let me do that. I even showed her the photographs afterwards so she wouldn't have to worry. Make sure you do that, by the way, if you're, especially if kids are involved in your photo session. And I took, maybe 10 of him, but really they weren't all that great, but except for this one. And I loved this one because he was standing on his tippy toes trying to see over the railing of the ferry to watch the seagulls were eating, scooping fish up out of the water. So, and I just really loved the photograph, but I thought it could still use a little bit of something. So I want to do the same technique here. Now, Photoshop Elements does not have a hue saturation, a black and white adjustment layer. It does have where's my mouse here? Oops, sorry about that. It does have a hue saturation adjustment layer, but no black and white. So let's go ahead and start with this one here. And as you can see, it does the same thing. It adds a mask, which is what we want, so we can do some non-destructive editing. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to this hue slider here, and I'm going to take the hue all the way down. Oh, that's kind of strange, huh? And I'm also going to take the saturation all the way down. So basically I've removed the color. Now you can actually fine tune it a little more. You see it says channel, and we're selected on master right now. All photographs have channels that are made up of the red, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and magenta colors. So if you wanted to fine tune it, you could control, say, there were green in his, well, actually, let's just go back to master here and I'll show you. Let's change this back to master, and let's set this back to the center where it was, or close to the center where it was. I could choose just to adjust the greens and take the saturation out of the greens there if I wanted to do that, and similarly adjust these other colors. In this case, I want the whole image to go black and white, so that's what I'm going to do. And so you see you have a bit of control here and over how the image contrasts. The other thing that you can do is, I'm going to close this and hide this for a moment. The hue saturation adjustment slider is available in all versions of Photoshop Elements. But the other thing you can do is something I'm not sure is available in how many of the older versions, but you can come up here to quick edit and quick mode, and you can see there's a bunch of filters here you can apply to your photo. There's a black and white photo, and if you click the down arrow, you can see there are 4 different options for your black and white. Now, some of these is kind of cool, this sort of moody kind of tone. This one has a little vignette here on the side. You can see it's shadowed in here. For my purposes, none of these are appropriate for what it is I want to do. It'll depend on your photo and the look that you actually like. But I'm going to show you, if we come back up here to expert mode, Elements has still assigned a mask to it. So you can still do the effects I'm going to show you. You just don't have, there's no way to control this. Once you've applied it, you've applied it. Whereas with this one, I can make some adjustments here. So what we're going to do is the same thing we did in the full version of Photoshop. I'm going to click on my mask here. I'm going to choose B for my brush tool, and from the brush options here, I'm going to, from the basic brushes, which are right here, I'm going to choose a hard round brush. I'm going to choose the largest one there is, 60 pixels. Not terribly big, but that's what we're going to start with. Again, I'm going to make sure our opacity is set to 100% and the mode is set to normal. And here I'm going to adjust this brush just a little bit bigger here. Maybe 70 is what we're going to start again. So making sure that my foreground color is set to black. If it's not, you can press the D key to return to default, and then the X key switches back and forth between the black and white. Clicking on my mask, and let me zoom in here for you. I am just going to paint back in the green of the straps on his flip-flops, because I thought that would be a great way to draw attention to his little feet. And, you know, I really thought that this was kind of a reminder for us all of the kind of wonder and excitement there are in the littlest of things. I mean, who would have thought that a ferry boat ride would be so fabulous? And that's why I love this photo so much. And he was really just coming out of his little flip-flops here. So I thought this was a good way to sort of draw emphasis to the part of the story that I was going to talk about in my journaling. And once again, as I said, this is non-destructive. So if you don't like it, just get rid of the mask. So there you have it, my quick and easy way to add some interest to, you know, a fine photograph that could just use a little pop for your page. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thanks for watching.